You rearrange your entire evening, cancel the thing you actually wanted to do, because they texted 3 words. Can you come over? Not a question mark, not a please, just a summons dressed as closeness. And you go. You always go. Because somewhere along the way you decided that being the person who shows up is who you are. It feels like it matters. Sitting on their couch at midnight, absorbing their entire week, listening until your eyes sting from staying up, it feels like proof that this friendship is real. Then, Thursday comes. You mention something small, a bad day, a quiet worry, something you almost didn't bring up. They hit you with, "Aw, that sucks," send a meme, and change the subject. There's a version of friendship where you're essential but never chosen, needed but never wanted, and it looks so much like love that you can go years without seeing the difference. What I'm about to walk you through is the anatomy of that difference, and once you see it, you'll understand why it never felt like enough, even when they swore you were important. Being wanted sounds like someone saving you a seat before you arrive. Being needed sounds like someone calling you only after everyone else said no. Wanted looks like them bringing up something you mentioned last week because it stuck with them. Needed looks like them remembering your name when the crisis hits and forgetting you exist the moment it passes. You feel the difference. You've always felt it. That slight hollow behind every interaction. The sense that you're performing a function instead of existing as a person in someone's life. Psychologists call this instrumental value, when someone relates to you based on your utility, not your presence. You're not a friend to them, you're a resource with a heartbeat. And the cruelest part isn't that they use you, it's that they genuinely believe they care. In their mind, calling you when they're falling apart is love. They don't see the imbalance because the arrangement works perfectly. For them, you're not imagining this. You've been doing the math in the background for months, maybe years, and the numbers have never once come out even. So let me show you how this actually plays out. And I need you to be honest with yourself about how many of these you recognize. Scroll through your messages right now. Pull up the thread between you and the person you're already thinking of. Look at who starts the conversation. They reach out when something goes wrong. A breakup, a work disaster, a 1 a.m. spiral they can't sit with alone. And every single time, you answer. You put your night on hold. You become whatever they need, the listener, the advisor, the steady voice that talks them off the ledge at 2 in the morning on a Wednesday. Now think about the last time you reached out first. Not because they needed something, but because you missed them. Think about how long it took them to respond. Think about how short that response was, how it closed the conversation instead of continuing it. Something in you goes still when you see that gap. Not anger, exactly. Something quieter. The sound of something you've been trying not to count finally becoming uncountable. You noticed. You just kept reaching anyway. That's the version of this you can see. The next one hides somewhere harder to look because it's not about what they do. It's about where you exist in their world versus where they exist in yours. Think about a specific night. You know the one. You saw the photos afterward. An Instagram story, a tagged group shot, everyone together somewhere, laughing, close, present. And you didn't even know it was happening. To you, that moment cracked something open. You replayed every recent conversation trying to figure out what you missed when you became someone they didn't think to include. You carried that feeling into the next morning like a stone in your jacket pocket, small enough to hide, heavy enough to feel with every step. To them, it wasn't even a thought. They didn't exclude you with intention. They simply didn't think of you. And that distinction, between being deliberately left out and never occurring to someone, is somehow worse. Because exclusion means you exist in their mind and they chose against you. Not occurring to them means you were never in the room to begin with. Your brain doesn't care about the distinction, though. Neuroscience says social exclusion activates the same neural regions as physical pain. So that ache you felt scrolling through those photos wasn't you being dramatic. Your body was registering a real wound. You exist in their phone but not in their plans, in their emergencies but not in their celebrations. That hurt because it should have, but what comes next isn't about what they do. It's about what they say. And it's the part that hides inside something that feels like a compliment. They tell you things that sound like love. You're the only person I can really talk to. I don't know what I'd do without you. Nobody else gets me like you do. The first time you heard those words, your chest opened up. Finally, proof. All those late nights, all that effort, all that showing up, it meant something. Listen again. Slower this time. You're the only person I can really talk to means no one else will carry this weight. I don't know what I'd do without you means I haven't built the ability to handle this alone. Nobody else gets me like you do means nobody else is willing to tolerate this much. Those aren't compliments, they're job descriptions. Every time you hear one, your jaw tightens around the thing you want to say but won't, which is, when do I get to be the one who's held? You were the net beneath their trapeze. Not once did they look down and wonder who was holding yours. I need you to stay with me for the next one. Because this is where it stops being about them and starts being about you. You've already tested this friendship. Maybe you didn't call it a test. Maybe you were just tired one week and stopped performing, stopped texting first, didn't volunteer to help before they asked. Said I can't, instead of rearranging your entire life around their crisis. And then you watched. You watched how long it took for them to notice. You watched the silence stretch, 1 day, 3 days, a full week where your phone didn't light up with their name. Not because they were busy. Because you'd stopped being useful, and without your usefulness, you became invisible. When you pulled back, they didn't lean in. They didn't call to check on you. They didn't wonder if something was wrong. They found someone else to fill the role, maybe faster than you were ready for, and the role was filled. That's what stung the most. Not that they moved on, but that moving on was so easy. That is the moment the floor shifts. Not because you lost them, because you realized you might never have had them. Not the way you thought. You weren't irreplaceable. You were the most reliable option, and those are not the same thing. You already knew. You ran the experiment hoping you'd be wrong. Go deeper with me for a second. Because underneath all of that, underneath the one-sided texts and the missing invitations and the compliments that were really assignments, there's one more layer. And it's the hardest to look at, because it belongs to you. If you've made it this far, you already know this applies to you. So let me say the thing nobody else will. There was a moment, and you know exactly which one, where you almost walked away. Maybe it was after the party you weren't invited to. Maybe it was after the text that went unanswered for 5 days. Maybe it was the night you needed them for once, genuinely needed someone to show up for you, and all you got back was a "sorry to hear that" before they disappeared. You felt the sentence forming. The honest one. The one that would have changed everything between you. And you swallowed it. You swallowed it because somewhere deep in your wiring, so early you don't even remember learning it, you decided that your value lived in what you could give. That love was something you earned through endurance. That if you stopped being useful, you'd stop being kept. So you picked up the phone again, said it's fine, showed up the following week like nothing happened. You drove. You listened. You canceled your own plans. You carried their weight on top of yours. And when you finally set it down, just once, they called you distant. There's a weight that lives right behind your sternum, not heavy enough to break you, just heavy enough to always be there. And it's not the weight of what they did. It's the weight of what you keep choosing. Remember the first pattern, how you were always the one who reached out? This last one is why. You kept reaching because stopping felt like losing the only proof you had that you mattered to someone. That's not friendship. That's survival dressed in loyalty. You weren't stupid. You were faithful to a version of them that only existed when they needed you. So here's the part that's hardest to hear. They didn't trap you. You volunteered. Not because something is wrong with you, because being needed felt close enough to being loved. And for a long time, maybe a very long time, close enough was enough. Enough to be the emergency contact even if you were never the plus one. Enough to be essential even if essential just meant convenient. You stayed through the silence, through the forgotten birthdays, through the excuses that got thinner each time. You stayed because leaving meant admitting it was never what you told yourself it was. Seeing this doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest enough to stop pretending. You're not difficult for wanting more than this. You're awake. The pattern only runs as long as you keep feeding it. And the fact that you're here, feeling that tightness behind your ribs right now, means something in you has already started to refuse. You don't have to burn the bridge. You just have to stop being the only one who walks across it. Tell me, which pattern hit first? Or did you know before this video even started? Drop it in the comments. If this is the first video of mine you've seen, subscribe. I make the things you feel but can't say out loud impossible to ignore. Being needed is not the same as being loved. It never was.